Lake Trasimene, 217 BCE. If military disasters had a greatest hits album, this one gets a platinum track. Rome and Carthage were in round 2 of their long, bitter rivalry, and Hannibal Barca had already made a dramatic entrance by crossing the Alps with an army, war elephants, and what must have been unshakable confidence. He had beaten Roman forces at the Trebia in 218 BCE, and now he was moving through Italy like a man who understood 2 things perfectly: terrain and psychology. Rome, meanwhile, was angry, embarrassed, and determined to fix everything immediately, which is usually how people make things worse. The Consul Gaius Flaminius took the field under heavy pressure. Citizens wanted action, allies wanted protection, and nobody in Rome wanted to hear the phrase, "Maybe we should slow down and think." Flaminius was not a coward. He was aggressive, energetic, and very ready to bring Hannibal to battle. Unfortunately, Hannibal knew this and treated it like free intelligence. As he marched through Etruria, Hannibal burned, raided, and provoked in full view, carefully shaping Roman emotions. This was not random destruction, it was bait. Flaminius followed, increasingly determined to catch him and force a decisive fight. Hannibal had no intention of giving him a fair one. Near Lake Trasimene, Hannibal found the perfect trap: a narrow corridor between lake and hills where a marching army could be compressed, confused, and attacked before it ever formed proper battle lines. He placed part of his force where the Romans could see it and hid the rest in the surrounding heights and at key exits. Everything was set before dawn. At this point, Rome was not marching into a battle. Rome was marching into a plan. Morning came with thick fog rolling off Lake Trasimene, the kind that turns distance into guesswork and command into shouting. Flaminius advanced anyway. The Roman column entered the constricted ground in marching order, not deployed for battle. That distinction matters. Marching order moves armies efficiently. Battle order keeps them alive. As more Romans pushed into the basin, visibility dropped and control frayed. The front could see enemy movement ahead, but not the full picture. The middle had little idea what was happening. The rear kept marching into a space that was already becoming a trap. Then Hannibal gave the signal. Carthaginian forces struck from multiple directions at once. Troops hidden in the hills came down on flanks. Forces at the rear blocked retreat. Pressure from the front prevented organized response. In seconds, the Roman column stopped being an army with a plan and became a crowd with weapons. Units were separated before they could form lines. Officers lost contact, and commands disappeared into fog, echo, and panic. Ancient accounts describe men fighting by sound as much as sight, swinging toward noise, and trying to orient themselves through screams, metal, and confusion. There is even a famous claim that an earthquake occurred during the battle, and many fighters did not notice. Whether taken literally or as a dramatic way to describe the chaos, the point is clear. This was total sensory overload. Roman strengths, discipline, cohesion, structure were neutralized before they could be brought to bear. Hannibal had engineered a battlefield where his opponent's best habits became liabilities. Flaminius had sought a decisive engagement. He got one, just not on Roman terms. Fog, narrow ground, and timing did the rest. What followed was not a tidy clash with clear phases. It was a rolling collapse. Large numbers of Romans were cut down where they stood, trapped against slopes, or driven toward the lake. Many drowned in armor while trying to escape through water and mud. Others were killed in fragmented pockets of resistance that never had room to organize into anything coherent. Flaminius attempted to rally his men in the chaos, but command in an ambush is like conducting an orchestra inside a thunderstorm. Tradition holds that he was killed in the fighting by a cavalryman, and his death accelerated the breakdown. Once the consul fell, the battle shifted from desperate defense to survival by instinct. A group at the head of the Roman column, roughly 6,000 men, did manage to punch through the immediate trap.
For a brief moment, that looked like a partial escape. It was not. They were later surrounded and captured. As if that were not enough, a separate Roman cavalry force sent to support by the other consul was intercepted and taken as well. Trasimene was determined to make sure bad news arrived in batches. Casualty estimates vary, as they often do in ancient warfare, but the broad picture is brutal. Around 15,000 Romans killed, many more captured, and far lighter losses on Hannibal's side. The asymmetry is exactly why Trasimene is remembered as one of the most devastating ambushes in military history. And this raises the obvious question: if Hannibal was so dominant, why not march straight on Rome and finish the war? Because winning field battles and besieging a massive fortified city are very different tasks. Hannibal excelled at mobility, deception, and maneuver. Storming Rome required equipment, logistics, and conditions he did not have. He could break Roman armies in the open. He could not simply wish city walls away.
News of Trasimene hit Rome like a civic panic button. Rumors spread fast, grief spread faster, and political blame became a contact sport. In crisis, republics often choose between two instincts: do something dramatic now, or do something disciplined for longer. Rome, to its credit, eventually chose discipline. Quintus Fabius Maximus was appointed dictator and introduced what became known as the Fabian strategy: avoid large set-piece battles with Hannibal, shadow him, harass his movements, cut his supplies, and refuse to give him the dramatic showdown he wanted. It was not glamorous, it was not emotionally satisfying. It was, however, intelligent. Many Romans hated it at first. Delay looked like weakness, caution looked like fear. But Fabius understood what Trasimene had exposed. Hannibal was most dangerous when Rome fought on impulse. If you remove easy opportunities for annihilating ambushes and grand encirclements, you force even brilliant commanders into a slower, harder war. Lake Trasimene therefore matters for more than its body count. It marks a turning point in Roman strategic maturity. Rome learned, painfully, that courage without reconnaissance is just expensive optimism. It learned that terrain is not background scenery, it is an active combatant. It learned that anger is useful for speeches and disastrous for operational planning. Most of all, it learned that survival in a long war is less about one heroic day and more about sustained, disciplined adaptation. Hannibal gave Rome one of the worst mornings in its history. Rome's eventual answer was not a single brilliant trick. It was institutional stubbornness, strategic patience, and the willingness to change after humiliation. If Trasimene has a modern lesson, it is simple: never confuse speed with control, and never march into fog just because your pride is in a hurry.